I was just looking at the topic, demystifying the promise to life, GenAI reality check. I think speaker after speaker from morning has, been speaking about, talking about AI, GenAI, and after that when we say, okay, we're going to demystify it, I hope we don't end up mystifying it a little more.
So there is a suffix, reality check.
Yes, there's the reality check. So, as far as the reality check is concerned, I just made some few points because I think, let me begin with a small little question. How many in this audience, we have been hearing about GenAI for almost like from December 2022 when ChatGPT gave a face to AI. But how many in the audience would honestly say that they have understood the difference between traditional AI and GenAI? A show of hands will do.
One.
No, at the back, there are few hands.
So about 10 hands?
Yes.
So we need a reality check, right, Samir? So that's how it's going to happen.
The bad news is nobody in the stage raised the hand.
I think for all of us, it's a reality check. I think all of us are grappling with these kind of differences. But the way I see it personally is when I speak about AI, I try to refer to it more as a concept rather than a technology, because it's more the desire to make machines as smart as humans or maybe smarter. And then you have a suite of technologies, whether it is machine learning, deep learning, which is a subset of machine learning. Within that, you have GANs, you have variational autoencoders, diffusion tools, etc., from where the mid-journeys and all the other tools are coming out. But you also have computer vision, image recognition, and I think Samir earlier spoke about the confluence of other technologies with these suite of technologies to make them more interesting. And then you have NLP, which is natural language processing, and then GenAI, which we are talking about. So where AI used to sort of, traditional machine learning rather, would look at patterns within data and make predictions. Now you have GenAI that is creating new content, whether it is text, image, code, even drug discovery, etc., and that's where the magic is all happening. So for me, I just see four, 5 quick trends that I'll just be referring to, and then of course we have accomplished gentlemen here who will dig a little deeper into that. So one, of course, that AI and GenAI is all around us. It's in our smartphones. The smartphone that I'm holding has a lot of features on that, whether it's cameras, sensors, etc. And we have been talking about GenAI smartphones. I think IDC numbers, I was just taking a look at it. 240 as of 2024 and 921 by 27-28. That's what a CAGR of about, who knows, 74-75%. And pretty astonishing kind of numbers. And then if you look at the composition of what GenAI smartphones can do, they can run your SLMs essentially on your, you can run an SLM on your smartphone, you can run all the ChatGPT, the LLM-powered chatbots on your LLM. So you moved from rule-based chatbots to intent-based chatbots and now to GenAI chatbots and plenty of other kind of use cases. The second one is when you look at the multidisciplinary aspect of AI, and that is clearly evident from the fusion of the Nobel Prize winners, whether it is Geoffrey Hinton, who won it with John Hopfield for physics, or whether it is Demystifying and John Jumper from Google DeepMind, who won it along with David Baker for the Nobel Prize in chemistry. So that's another interesting aspect. The third one that I would see is AI agentic systems, which I would call as the killer apps, where they can take autonomous decisions, and I think earlier speakers have spoken about it. So that's another interesting aspect. The fourth one is, of course, which I would say is the democratization of the AI code, because now we are using a lot of English prompts. I guess coding will happen also with in other languages where you could use perhaps Hindi or any other language for that matter of fact and do coding in that. So you'll be as good as your prompt perhaps. And then, of course, AGI, or the artificial general intelligence, that whole debate around it, which I personally see more as a distraction at this point in time, may be closer than we think. I had a chat on that saying that why that could happen, but that's outside the scope of this debate. But KSV, quickly on GCCs, what are the trends that you are seeing over there?
Yeah, just before I go to GCC, just one data point for you, all of us. Today, 1.3 billion population, 15% of people perhaps are privileged, you may call them. We use all the smartphones that are put together, generate close about 1.72 gigabytes of data every day, right? Every day. And the best is yet to come. Imagine this, if this were to explode, there's 1.7 with more and more gadgets coming in, automobile system, intelligent systems, anything and everything in AI enabled, intelligent enabled, they're all going to generate data, and that data needs to be consumed as well. So what we need to do. GCC in that space are no exception, no exception. Out of the Fortune 500 companies, close about 43% of them are present in India. Out of the Fortune Forbes 2000 companies, close about 26% are present in India. Almost everyone has identified a project which you heard all the previous speakers talk about, either for customer experience or operational experience. I'll give an example, one of the use cases. In an automobile industry, entire car is being picturized as software on four wheels. Is all being driven by sensors and the processors, etc. They're all generating data. What do we do with data? Everything has to go to the cloud and access put together. They are creating an on-the-edge an AI model, a Gen AI model that can be making use of data. All those use cases, whether it is an healthcare GCC, whether it's a retail GCC, whether a customer experiences. I'll give you another example where a real-life case is being utilized in a travel and tourism segment. One of the airlines, I can't name the company, they run their Fly app from India. They have taken a project to get Gen AI, which putting the context in is improving the score of a web presence from what was at 3.6 to 4.3. What it means is, where an user of an airline, where he's keen on seat availability, lounge availability, upgrade availability, everything put together, he looks at a hand phone today, that 6x6 inch equipment that is going to determine what this world is. The world is converging there. More and more people are going. There are challenges, of course. As Samir talked about reality checks, we'll talk reality check. Opportunity-wise, I think we are sitting on tip of the iceberg. The best is yet to come. You name an industry. People are in the banking industry, retail industry, auto industry, aero industry, healthcare industry, energy industry, semiconductor industry. Practically everyone is running some local projects in India adopting AI and Gen AI.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because typically when you talk about AI and Gen AI, we talk about the 4Cs kind of stuff, with the content creation, customer service, call centers or BPMs, as you say, or and maybe even consulting now. But I'm glad you brought up all the
It's
depth.
sorry, Samir, I'll just take a minute more. It's also, you see, the evolution of the GCC landscape in the country. From, and say, cost and talent, we are getting into an intellectual arbitrage. When you get into the intellectual arbitrage, all these projects does handy to scale that we bring true value to technology progress from this great country.
Let me bring Samir in. Samir, you have been speaking on, I saw those slides that you had put out on the ROI from Gen AI and many other aspects. Now, data seems to be the strength, is clearly the strength of any AI model or Gen AI model, but it's also the Achilles heels if you don't have things. So a lot of SLMs are being used, trained on local data with RAG, fine-tuning, whatever approach that you have, and at the same time made very meaningful domain level kind of stuff. It will be, from a reality check point of view, what exactly is, how many of these things are you seeing moving from the pilot stage to actual production grade kind of models?
So I think first on extending to what KSV said about how many zettabytes of data you said, sir?
1.72.
Okay. Let me explain what is 1 zettabyte of data. 1 zettabyte of data is all the video titles of the Netflix put together, multiplied by 440 million times. Now imagine if that's what 1 zettabyte is, how much we are talking about. More important, with the Gen AI, one of the reasons why I mentioned in my address was about the fault lines appearing. The fault lines are at some level with the propensity of the computing power and the data, what we call consumption. We will reach at an inflection point where we will need to generate an equivalent amount of synthetic data. And surprising part, Leslie, to the point what you said, this is actually being done by the laggards, the organizations which were dormant at some point of time, quickly realize the virtues and what I really call the benefits of AI, Gen AI, and are putting those production and deployment into abundance. The fact remains, there is a journey continuum. Today, when you start an AI, if not first, AI-led enterprise, that's a journey continuum. For the ones who are doing POCs or experiments or these minuscule projects, really it has succeeded in building an enterprise-wide AI adoption because that strategy of, to your point, data, architecture, stack, the whole application and the adoption, and even putting the hallucination and the ethics piece does not go linear, which is what the organizational challenges have been.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to recognize that because many of these companies, especially in the BFSI sector, the retail sector, and many of these had very mature kind of AI model. In fact, actually, KSP reminded me of this talk that we had about 8 years back on AI at that point in time. And in fact, actually, even then, people used to find it hard to understand machine learning. And now today we are talking, very smoothly about Gen AI models. But I think synthetic data is something that very important that you point out. What about from the challenges point of view? I think it's important to understand, okay, we have been talking about hallucinations, which interestingly both are a feature also. I think Gen AI cannot function without hallucinations because that's an inherent feature and that's the way it works. But interestingly, that itself is also something that companies, enterprises especially, have to take cognizance of. Copyright violations, plagiarism, trademark, when it leaves the data, the kind of lawsuits that are being filed. So I think that's the part of the reluctance on the part of the enterprises. KSV and Samir, both, either one of you can shed some light on what enterprises or CXOs ought to do in this light. 2 or 3 things that we need to take care of when implementing these Gen AI models.
For me, the key is data. I don't think we have clean data yet, right? If something is impedimenting the adoption of AI, is availability of a good structured data, right? Even though data is available from multiple places, multiple sources, that's modified to do it, but end of the day, you start with new data. End of the day, I do not know how many of you in this room go through the data that you have in your public system or the Excel sheet that you have in your laptop, right? End of the day, you trust the data, what you see. So it's important we can get this data engineering done. If you ask me the CIO, CXO perspective, where they're spending time to focus on data engineering. How do I get the right data for modeling to take advantage of to stop that hallucination that you talked about? So data engineering one, whichever way you define it, data scrubbing or data cleansing or data modeling, then that leads to data modeling. So data modeling, when it gets right, with data engineering right, the avalanche of opportunities that's going to be available is going to be huge. I see that's a key priority is what they're looking at it. The board is clear, let's make use of it. When rubber hits the road, people are now saying data. We can get that data injection strategy right, perhaps the avalanche is yet to happen.
So first of all, listening from KSV, Leslie, I think both of us can endorse. He sounds like a practitioner.
I am, by the way. He's projecting as if I'm not a practitioner. Yeah, except that I prepared for this meeting today. That's all.
By all means, I keep on saying, KSV, if in life you get compliments, please take it. So I think to the point what you said, hallucinations are good. because that's a testimony and a manifestation that, look,
Gen AI is working.
Gen AI is working or not working, really. And hallucinations are also good in personal life as well.
And we hallucinate ourselves.
But I think on the enterprise side, the biggest challenge, what you, Leslie, what you mentioned also earlier, I think this building AI fluency at the CXO level is an issue, is a challenge. Just to give an anecdote, one of the masterclasses I was doing for a large Indian conglomerate a few months back, and one of the very known board member rather, I can't take the name, met me during one of the lunch breaks, and I said, "Sir, why are you here?" He said, "Look, he was in a public gathering and his wife and mother-in-law were there, and his mother-in-law asked some of the chat GPT feature, which he could not respond, his wife did, and that's why he's here in the masterclass." So I think that fear of now, how the boards, CXOs should really internalize AI, if not adopt, has started coming in, which, exactly to your point, the more the knowledge of the unknown, the better it is for the organization to start adoption.
You know, as we heard in the previous conversation, even in this conversation now, Leslie is hinting, in the past people said, let's take low-hanging fruits. People started saying left-hand side of the balance sheet, cost, efficiencies, etc. I am also saying, I do not know whether you are seeing this, people are boldly taking upfront, let's leverage on the right side of the balance sheet. How do we upsell the sale? What is required? Drawing insight. We have done it traditionally with analytics for so many years, right? Now people are now seeing the power of upsells taking place, and that is leading to perhaps adoption better. But for me, the important continues to be data, data, data.
I think as we're speaking about data, and I think very valid observations both by Samir and KSP.
15 years.
No. I'll put it this way. For me, skills is never static. It is a continuum. It's a continuum. You know what? 7 years back, 8 years back, Samir and I were several of the industry leaders in the space of analytics we were saying that India perhaps require 5,000 PhDs and perhaps 300,000 analytics professionals, right? Has that equation changed? No. Perhaps India continues to require 5,000 PhDs. Now, except that as in the past, I think one of the session people said, data scientists. Now, the new role that is coming is data creatives. Data creatives, somebody, I think in the last two speakers, they communicated the story extremely well. So there is a skilling required. Just by getting data alone is not right. What is the skill required to communicate the story insights of the data? That's one big skill. Whether an existing salesperson augmenting his capability to be upgrading himself. Data crunching skills, data cleaning skills, data analyzing skills, and including that, the capabilities in terms of developing a large language model, machine language, entire skilling continues. Currently, we ask me, if we can get on a mission mode project, 100,000 people, 200,000 people working on just cleaning up data, right? We are there to take our economy by 1% more GDP the next 5 years.
30 seconds, Samir.
30 seconds. Upheaval is the word. The jobs of today, even for the data analytics AI industry, will not be the jobs of tomorrow. Simple example, modeling, a very sexy, glamorous job, will not exist tomorrow. To his point, exactly, if 5 million is the current tech population, which has been static for almost about 7-8 years, I think the only way it can go up is the new skills and competencies.
And my 10 seconds would simply be that AI will not take away your job, but somebody who understands AI and Gen AI will definitely. So I leave you with that comforting thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much.